My wife cheated on me with the delivery guy. I was ovulating. I couldn't control it, she said. I just nodded. All right. 3 days later, she called me from work sobbing. All right, Reddit. Buckle up because this story is wild from start to finish. This happened about 8 months ago, and I'm finally ready to tell it. My buddy Jake said this needs to be documented for posterity. So here we are. I'm 32, male, work as an operations coordinator for a regional shipping company in Arizona. Not glamorous, but pays well, and I'm good at what I do. Been at the same company for 6 years, got promoted twice, own a decent house in a quiet neighborhood outside Phoenix. Paid off my car last year, solid retirement account growing, living the responsible adult dream. My wife Rachel and I got married 4 years ago. Met through mutual friends, she worked as a dental hygienist downtown. Pretty standard love story, nothing dramatic. She seemed normal, had her life together, wasn't bringing chaos everywhere. After 2 years of dating, we got married at a resort in Sedona with about 70 guests. Marriage was fine for the first 3 years. Not fireworks every day, but solid and stable. We both worked, split bills, had our routines. She'd complain sometimes that I worked too much or we didn't do enough romantic stuff, but nothing that seemed like a real problem. Normal marriage friction. Our house is this 3-bedroom ranch with a decent backyard. When we bought it, Rachel got super into the homeowner thing. Spent weeks picking paint colors, reorganizing the kitchen, buying matching furniture. She joined every neighborhood Facebook group, knew everyone's business within months. I upgraded the garage into my workspace, got a workbench, organized my tools, installed better lighting. Spent weekends fixing things around the house. Rachel called it excessive, but appreciated never calling a repairman. The thing about Rachel is she needs constant validation, always checking social media, comparing our life to other couples, asking if I still found her attractive. I'd reassure her, but it never stuck. Like pouring water into a bucket with no bottom. She'd post carefully staged photos of us on Instagram with captions about being blessed and me being her rock. Meanwhile, at home, she'd scroll through her phone, ignoring me for hours. The performative relationship thing people do now. I didn't love it, but figured that's how people are these days. By year 4, things started feeling more like roommates than partners. We'd have dinner, watch TV, go to bed. Weekends were errands and house projects. Nothing terrible, but nothing exciting either. I figured this was just what marriage became after the honeymoon phase wore off. My parents had been together 35 years, and they seemed about the same level of engaged with each other. Then about 9 months ago, Rachel started ordering stuff online constantly. And I mean constantly. Packages showing up every single day, sometimes multiple times a day. At first, I figured she was just shopping more, maybe feeling some kind of retail therapy urge. Didn't think much of it. She'd always been into online shopping, but this was next level. Every day there'd be boxes on the porch, clothes, home decor, kitchen gadgets, random stuff from Amazon and Target, and every other site you can imagine. Our credit card bill jumped by like $600 a month just from her ordering random things. When I asked her about it, she'd get defensive. Said she was buying things we needed for the house, that she was finally making our place look nice, that I should be happy she was taking pride in our home. Whatever. Her money too, she worked, so I let it go. Figured it was better than her going out and spending money at bars or something. What I didn't notice at first was that she started caring a lot more about her appearance on days when packages were expected. She'd check the tracking obsessively, make sure she was home during the delivery window, put on makeup, and fix her hair before the doorbell rang. I noticed but didn't connect the dots because I'm apparently an idiot. The delivery guy was the same person most of the time. Local courier service drives one of those white vans with their company logo. Guy was maybe mid-20s, looked like he spent every free hour at the gym, had that whole pretty boy thing going. The kind of dude who knows he's attractive and uses it. His name was Brett. Of course it was Brett. Rachel started mentioning him. How nice the delivery guy was. How polite and professional. I remember thinking it was weird she was talking about the delivery guy at all, but didn't think too hard about it. She started timing things so she'd be outside when he showed up. Watering plants that didn't need watering, checking the mailbox, suddenly needing to sweep the porch right as the van pulled up. I'd see it from the window sometimes while working from home. She'd chat with him for 5-10 minutes. This went on for maybe 2 months. The ordering increased, the conversations got longer, and Rachel started dressing nicer, even when she wasn't going anywhere. Full makeup to sit at home watching Netflix. Started going to the gym more, bought new clothes, seemed more energetic. I'm not a suspicious person by nature. Never was the jealous type. Always figured if someone's going to cheat, they'll cheat regardless of how closely you watch. But even I started noticing something felt off. Rachel was on her phone constantly, smiling at messages, typing rapidly, then deleting before sending. One night about 3 months ago, I asked her straight up if something was going on. She looked at me like I'd accused her of murder, got all offended, said I was being paranoid and controlling, asked if I was projecting because maybe I was the one cheating. The whole defensive playbook. I backed off because I didn't have proof and didn't want to be that guy. But I started paying more attention after that. I noticed she'd angle her phone away from me when texting. She'd take her phone to the bathroom, which she never did before. She started staying up later than me, and I'd hear her phone buzzing with notifications from the bedroom while I was in the living room. The real kicker was when I came home early from work one day, about 2.5 months ago. Had a meeting canceled, so I left the office around 2 instead of my usual 5:30. Pulled into the driveway and saw the white delivery van parked in front of our house. Weird, but not damning. Maybe just dropping off a package. I walked up to the front door and it was locked, which was odd because Rachel's car was in the driveway. I used my key to get in. The house was quiet. Too quiet. No TV, no music, nothing. I called out for Rachel and got no response. Started walking through the house and that's when I heard it. Sounds coming from our bedroom. Not anything innocent. I stood in the hallway for probably 30 seconds, processing what I was hearing. Part of me wanted to kick the door down and lose my mind, but a bigger part of me went completely cold and calm. That detached feeling you get when something so absurd is happening that your brain can't quite believe it's real. I walked back to the living room, sat down on the couch, and waited. About 10 minutes later, I heard the bedroom door open. Footsteps, some whispered conversation, then Brett walking out pulling his shirt on. He froze when he saw me sitting there, went pale. I just looked at him, didn't say anything, didn't move, just made eye contact and watched him squirm. He mumbled something like, "Sorry, man," and basically ran out the front door. I heard his van start up and peel out. Rachel came out a minute later, saw me sitting there, and stopped dead. She was wearing one of my old college shirts and had that post-everything disheveled look. The thing is, I didn't feel angry. I felt nothing. Just this weird, empty calm. Like watching someone else's life fall apart from a distance. She stood there opening and closing her mouth like a fish for probably 15 seconds before any words came out. Finally managed to say, "I can explain." I raised an eyebrow. "Sure, let's hear it." I was ovulating. I couldn't control it. I literally laughed. Not like a bitter, angry laugh, but genuine, surprised amusement. What? My hormones were all over the place. When you're ovulating, you have these biological urges that are almost impossible to ignore. It's science. I read about it. Women in their fertile window are biologically programmed to seek out the best genetic material. And Brett is objectively very attractive and fit. And it just happened. I sat there processing this absolute nonsense. So you're saying your ovaries made you cheat? I'm saying the biological imperative to procreate overrode my rational decision-making. It's not like I planned it. It just happened naturally because my body was in that phase of my cycle. How long has this been going on? She hesitated, calculating in her head. About 6 weeks. 6 weeks. And how many times? Does that matter? Humor me. Maybe 15 times? I don't know, I wasn't counting. 15 times? Multiple times a week. Scheduled around her cycle, apparently. I nodded slowly, taking it all in. So just to be clear, you've been sleeping with the delivery guy for 6 weeks? And your explanation is that your ovulation made you do it. I'm not saying it's an excuse, I'm saying it's an explanation. You don't understand how powerful these hormones are. I couldn't help myself. And now that you're not ovulating anymore? She looked confused. What? Well, you're not ovulating right now. That only lasts a few days each month. So for the rest of the time, what's the excuse? She didn't have an answer for that. Just sat there looking caught. I stood up. All right. All right, what? All right. I heard your explanation. Thanks for sharing. She looked panicked. That's it? You're not going to yell or get angry or anything? Nope. We're good. We're good? What does that mean? Means exactly what it sounds like. Don't worry about it. I walked to our bedroom, grabbed my laptop and a few personal items, and walked back out. Rachel was standing in the living room looking completely confused. Where are you going? Out. I'll be staying somewhere else for a bit. Wait, can we talk about this? Nothing to talk about. You explained everything. I get it. Biology, hormones, very scientific. Are you being sarcastic? I looked at her with the most neutral expression I could manage. No. Then I left. I went to Jake's place. He's my best friend since high school, lives alone in an apartment downtown, works as an electrical engineer, and keeps his life drama-free, which is exactly why we've stayed friends for 15 years. I showed up at his door around 8 p.m. He took one look at my face and said, What happened? Told him the whole story. Every detail from coming home early to the sounds in the bedroom to Rachel's insane ovulation defense. He listened without interrupting, which is rare for Jake because he usually has commentary on everything. When I finished, he was silent for a solid minute, just stared at me processing what he'd heard. Then he said, "Ovulation." She blamed ovulation. Yep, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I once had a coworker try to explain to me that the moon landing was faked because shadows don't work that way. Yep. So what's the plan? Because you've got that look you get when you're about to methodically dismantle someone's entire existence. Give me 3 days. I need to handle some things. He grabbed 2 sodas from his fridge, handed me one, and sat down. You need my couch, my spare room, or just someone to help you move stuff. Probably all 3 at some point. You got it. Fair warning, though. If I see Rachel, I'm going to have some words for her. Don't. She's not worth the energy. He nodded. You're way calmer about this than I would be. I'm furious. I'm just not showing it because showing it doesn't accomplish anything. And that was the truth. I was angry, obviously, but not the explosive kind of angry, where you punch walls and yell. The cold, calculated kind, where you make lists and execute plans. The kind of angry that comes from complete clarity about what needs to happen next. See, here's what Rachel didn't understand about me. I don't do messy emotional reactions. I don't scream and break things and make dramatic scenes. When someone disrespects me, I go completely quiet, handle the logistics, and remove them from my life with surgical precision. It's just how I'm wired. My dad was like this too. I remember when his business partner tried to screw him over years ago. Dad didn't yell or threaten or get dramatic. He just spent 2 weeks going through contracts and documentation with a lawyer, then dissolved the partnership and started his own company. The partner went bankrupt within a year while Dad's business thrived. Taught me early that strategic thinking beats emotional reactions every single time. So that night I stayed at Jake's place, slept on his couch, and started making my mental checklist of everything that needed to happen. Couldn't sleep anyway, so I ended up sitting in his living room until 3 a.m., just planning it all out step by step. The next morning I called out sick from work. Sent an email to my boss around 6 a.m. saying I had a family emergency and needed a few days. My boss Dave is cool. We've worked together for 4 years, and he's never been the micromanaging type. Didn't ask questions, just told me to take care of what I needed and keep him posted. Nice having a boss who treats you like an adult. Then I got to work on the logistics. First stop was a lawyer's office. Found one that could see me same day. Showed up at 10:30. Patricia Hendricks, been practicing family law for 23 years. Laid out the whole situation in 15 minutes. She took notes, asked good questions, didn't judge. Do you have any documentation? She asked. Not yet, but I can get it. Get it. Arizona's no fault, but documentation helps with property division. Text messages, emails, credit card statements showing unusual purchases. The more evidence, the stronger your position. We talked about the house. Told her I'd put down 70% of the down payment from pre-marriage savings. That's your separate property, she said. You'll get that back in full before splitting equity. Do you have documentation? Bank statements, purchase paperwork. I keep good records. Perfect. She spent an hour explaining the divorce process. What to expect, how long it would take, likely outcomes. Her retainer was $5,000. I wrote the check right there. She'd have papers ready in 2 business days. As I was leaving, she said, "You're handling this better than most people do. Stay this calm and you'll walk away in great shape." Nice to have a professional confirm my approach wasn't cold, just practical. Next stop was the bank. We had joint checking and savings at a credit union, about $40,000 in savings total. Walked in, explained I was separating and needed to split the accounts. The manager, Lisa, came out. "We can do that. You'll be taking 50%? Exactly 50%. She set up new accounts in just my name, transferred $1,800 from checking and $20,000 from savings. Left Rachel with her half. Took about an hour. Lisa printed statements showing the exact amounts for my lawyer. "You're doing this the right way," she said. "Fair and documented. That'll look good if this goes to court." After the bank, I grabbed lunch, sat in my truck making more lists, then spent the afternoon canceling shared bills and subscriptions. Phone plan was in my name. Called the carrier, removed Rachel's line. She'd get a notification and need her own plan. Streaming services, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, HBO Max, Spotify, some fitness app Rachel wanted. All on my credit card. Canceled everything. She could set up her own. Car insurance was bundled. Split it into 2 separate policies. Mine on autopay, hers would need to handle payment herself. Gym membership was this expensive family plan Rachel insisted on. Canceled it, got a solo membership somewhere cheaper. Credit cards. We had a joint card for house expenses, about 4,000 in balance from repairs I'd done. Closed it, moved the balance to my own card since the charges were mine anyway. The house was the tricky part. We'd bought it together, but I'd put down the majority of the down payment from money I'd saved before we met. Told the lawyer about that. He said we could work it out in the settlement. For now, I wasn't going anywhere. Rachel could stay there, but I was coming back. By the end of day one, I was exhausted. Went back to Jake's place around 7 p.m., ordered pizza, and told him everything I'd accomplished. He listened and said, "Rachel probably thinks you're falling apart right now. She has no idea you spent the day systematically dismantling your entire shared life. She'll find out soon enough." What's day two? Documentation and property. Need evidence for the lawyer and to figure out the house situation. Second day started with going back to the house. Rachel's car was gone when I pulled up around 9 a.m. She was at work, usually got there by 8, and didn't come home until 5:30. Had a solid 8 hours to work with. Let myself in with my key. Place looked the same as it had 2 days ago. Coffee cup still sitting on the counter from that morning. Her shoes by the door. Everything normal except nothing was normal anymore. First thing I did was check our shared iPad. Rachel had been sloppy. Her messages app was logged in and I could see everything. Months of conversations with Brett. Started innocent, got flirtier, then explicit, then making plans. All time-stamped, all documented. I spent 2 hours taking screenshots of everything. Saved them all to cloud storage. Messages where she complained about me being boring. Messages where she planned their meetings around my work schedule. Messages where her friends Brittany and Amanda encouraged the whole thing and made jokes about her hot delivery guy. There were photos she'd sent Brett of our house, our bedroom. She'd literally been showing him our home while planning to betray me in it. Screenshot everything. Organized by date. Complete timeline of the affair. The lawyer would love this. Next, I went through credit card statements. The pattern was obvious. Starting 3 months ago, charges for new clothes, expensive workout gear, lingerie. All timed with when the affair started. Amazon account history showed the same thing. 3 months before the affair, maybe 10 orders total. During the affair, probably 150 items. Cheap stuff that didn't matter. Just excuses for more delivery visits. Printed everything. Highlighted the patterns. Added to my documentation folder. Checked our shared computer. Browser history showed searches for, "Is it cheating if you're unhappy?" and "Can hormones make you cheat?" She'd actually Googled whether hormones could cause infidelity before using it as her excuse. More screenshots, more documentation. Around noon, I took a break. Made a sandwich, sat at the kitchen table thinking about this house where we'd lived for 3 years. All of it now just evidence in a divorce case. After lunch, I focused on property. The house we'd bought for $280,000 put down $60,000 total. I'd contributed 40, Rachel 20. Split the mortgage payments evenly from our joint account. Checked Zillow. Similar houses selling for around $340,000. About $60,000 in equity beyond our down payment. Did the math. My $40,000 down payment came back as separate property. The $60,000 equity split 50-50 meant 30 each. I'd walk away with 70 grand from the house. Rachel would get 50. With the 20 from savings, I'd have 90,000 to start fresh. Made notes about repairs and upgrades. New water heater, roof repairs, new appliances. About 10,000 in improvements from my accounts. The lawyer could help me claim that as separate property investment. Spent the afternoon cataloging everything in the house. Every piece of furniture, every appliance, every item of value. Took photos of everything. Clear record before dividing property. Around 5 p.m., I heard a car door outside. Rachel's car pulling into the driveway. I'd been there about 8 hours and accomplished everything I needed to. Grabbed my documentation folder, my laptop, and headed for the door. She came in just as I was leaving. Saw me walking out with stuff and froze. "What are you doing here?" "Getting what I needed. I'll be back for the rest of my things soon. We need to talk about this." "Nothing to talk about. You'll be getting divorce papers soon. Read them. Why are you being like this?" I stopped and looked at her. Really looked at her. This person I'd been married to for 4 years, who'd thrown it all away for a delivery guy and blamed her biology. "I'm not being like anything, Rachel. I'm just handling business. You made your choice. Now I'm making mine." Also found messages where she'd told her friends about it. Not all her friends. Just 2 close ones who apparently thought it was exciting and romantic. They'd been encouraging her, calling Brett her hot delivery guy, making jokes about getting her packages delivered. Real quality people. I screenshot everything, saved it all to a cloud drive, and sent copies to my lawyer. Third day, I went back to the house. Rachel's car wasn't there, so I let myself in. Place looked the same as always. I packed up all my personal belongings. Clothes, important documents, my tools from the garage, anything that was solely mine. Took maybe 3 hours to load everything into a moving truck I'd rented. Left all the furniture since we'd bought most of it together. Left all the kitchen stuff, decorations, all that shared property. Just took what was legally and clearly mine. I'm not a thief, and I wasn't going to give her ammunition to play victim. Before I left, I canceled our pest control service, our lawn care service, and the cleaning service we'd been using. All things I'd been paying for. She could handle that stuff herself now. Also turned off the automatic payment for the HOA fees, since those came from my account. She'd figure it out when they sent her a late notice. Last thing I did was leave the divorce papers on the kitchen counter with a note. Kept it simple. You'll need to sign these. Lawyer's contact information is attached. I'll be staying with friends for now, but we'll need to discuss the house situation soon. I've taken half of what was in our accounts, which is fair. You're welcome to hire your own lawyer if you want. I have documentation of everything. Then I locked the door, dropped my house key through the mail slot, and left. That was day 3. Right around 3 in the afternoon on that third day, my phone started blowing up. Rachel was calling over and over. I didn't answer. She left voicemails crying, begging me to call her back, saying we needed to talk. I deleted them without listening all the way through. Then the texts started. Wall after wall of text messages. Please call me back. We need to talk about this. You can't just leave like this. This isn't fair. I made a mistake, but we can work through it. You're throwing away 4 years of marriage. Everyone makes mistakes. I didn't respond to any of them. Then around 6 p.m., my phone rang again. Different number this time, I answered. Hello. It was Rachel, sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. You need to come home right now. Why would I do that? Because everything's falling apart and I can't handle this. And you just left without talking to me about any of this. We talked. You explained about your ovulation. I said we were good. What else was there to discuss? You said we were good. I thought that meant you were okay with it. No, I said we were good. As in, I heard you. I understood the situation. We're good on communication. That's not what that means. That's absolutely what that means. She was full-on hysterical at this point. You took half the money from our accounts. Correct. It's my money. Half of it. How am I supposed to pay bills? With your half of the money, plus your job. You know, like an adult. You canceled all the services. I canceled services I was paying for. You can set up your own if you want them. The HOA sent me a late notice. Yeah, because the automatic payment was from my account and I turned it off. You should probably pay that. I got divorce papers. You're seriously divorcing me over one mistake? 15 mistakes by your own count. But who's keeping track? I can't believe you're doing this. I thought you loved me. Here's where I finally let a little edge into my voice. Rachel, you had an affair with the delivery guy for 6 weeks. You blamed it on ovulation, which is hands down the dumbest excuse I've ever heard. You scheduled it around my work hours like you were planning a surprise party. You told your friends about it, and they thought it was funny. And when I caught you, you didn't apologize. You gave me a biology lecture. So yeah, I'm divorcing you. This isn't complicated. But we can work through this. Couples survive affairs all the time. Maybe. But see, I don't want to work through it. I don't want to go to counseling and unpack your feelings and learn to trust again. I don't want to wonder every time you order something online if you're seeing bread again. I'm just done. You're being cruel. I'm being practical. There's a difference. Where am I supposed to go? This is my house too. Figure it out. You can stay there until we work out the property settlement, or you can leave. Your choice. But I'm not coming back to live there while you're there. Everyone's going to think I'm a terrible person. And there it was. Not that she felt bad about what she did. Not that she regretted hurting me. She was worried about how she looked to other people. Rachel, you are a terrible person. You cheated on your husband repeatedly and blamed it on your menstrual cycle. Yes, people will think you're terrible because you are. She just sobbed harder. Look, sign the papers. Get a lawyer if you want, but it's not going to change much. Arizona's a no-fault state, but I've got documentation of your affair which affects division of assets and spousal support. You're employed, so you don't need alimony. We'll split what we can split and sell the house. It's pretty straightforward. I don't want a divorce. I want you to come home. Not happening. Listen, I need to go. You've got my lawyer's information. Have your lawyer contact mine and we'll work out the details. Wait, don't. I hung up. She called back immediately. I declined the call. She called again. Declined. Eventually, I just blocked her number. For the next 2 weeks, my phone exploded with attempts at contact. She tried calling from other numbers. She texted from her friends' phones. She sent me emails. She even tried messaging me on old social media accounts I barely used. All the same stuff. Crying, begging, promising to change, saying it was a mistake, claiming she never loved Brett, swearing she'd do anything to fix this. The usual breakup playbook. I didn't respond to any of it. Complete radio silence. My lawyer said she still hadn't hired her own attorney or responded to the papers, just avoiding dealing with reality. He sent her another set via certified mail with a deadline. Either respond or he'd file for default judgment. That apparently scared her enough to finally get a lawyer. Some guy who probably took one look at the case and realized he wasn't working with much. Can't really defend I cheated because of ovulation in legal proceedings. Her lawyer contacted mine, tried to argue I'd been emotionally neglectful, that Rachel felt unappreciated, that the affair was a symptom of deeper marriage problems. My lawyer sent over the documentation. That shut it down quick. They tried claiming I'd stolen money by taking my half of our accounts. Lawyer explained community property law. They tried saying I'd left her financially vulnerable by canceling services. Lawyer pointed out those were services I paid for. Every argument got shut down with documentation and legal precedent. The house was the main issue. I wanted my down payment back plus half the equity. She wanted to keep the house or force a sale where she'd get half of everything. Problem was, I had documentation. My down payment was pre-marriage savings. Separate property under Arizona law. Eventually, we settled. I got my full down payment back. We split the equity 50-50 and agreed to sell. I waived claim to her retirement accounts. She waived claim to mine. We each kept our own cars. Divided furniture fairly. No spousal support either way. Took about 4 months. Could have been faster, but Rachel kept dragging her feet, hoping I'd change my mind. When she realized I wasn't coming back, she signed. During those 4 months, some interesting things came to light. Turns out Brett the delivery guy had a girlfriend. She found out about his affair with Rachel because someone saw him at our house during what should have been work hours and reported it to his company. Company investigated, found out he was sleeping with a customer on company time and fired him. His girlfriend dumped him immediately after. Rachel's friends who'd been encouraging the affair? Yeah, their husbands found out about that. One of those marriages imploded too. The other couple went to counseling, but apparently it's not going well. Turns out men don't love hearing their wives were cheerleaders for infidelity. Rachel's family was mortified when they found out. Her parents called me to apologize, said they didn't raise her to be like that, offered to testify on my behalf if needed. I told them it wasn't necessary, but appreciated the support. Her sister blocked her on social media and didn't talk to her for months. The neighborhood gossip mill went crazy. Small community, everyone knows everyone, and word spread fast. Rachel became that woman who cheated with the delivery guy. She couldn't go anywhere without people talking. Eventually, she had to move out of the area entirely. Her work found out too. Small dental practice, family-run business, very conservative owners. They didn't fire her, but they made it clear they weren't happy. She ended up quitting and finding a job somewhere else because the environment got so uncomfortable. Brett ended up having to change careers entirely. Turns out when you get fired from a delivery company for sleeping with customers, other delivery companies don't want to hire you. Word spreads in those industries. Last I heard, he was working retail. As for me, life got significantly better almost immediately. The stress of being in a dying marriage evaporated. I didn't realize how much energy I'd been putting into maintaining something that wasn't working until I stopped having to do it. I found a great apartment downtown, one of those newer buildings with actual amenities and a decent gym. Shorter commute to work, better location for going out, more space than I actually needed. Set it up exactly how I wanted with nobody complaining about my choices. Work-wise, I got promoted about 2 months after the separation. My boss said my performance had improved significantly. Makes sense. I wasn't mentally drained from a bad relationship anymore. Had energy to focus on my career and actually advance. Started going to the gym regularly. Not because I needed to prove anything, but because I had the time and energy for it. Got in better shape than I'd been in years. Started sleeping better, eating better, just generally feeling healthier. Socially, things improved too. Started hanging out with friends more, went on a few dates here and there, joined a recreational sports league. Nothing serious on the dating front yet, but I'm not rushing it. Taking time to just enjoy being single and figuring out what I actually want. The divorce finalized about a month ago. House sold in 3 weeks, market was good. Got my down payment back plus my half of the equity. Walked away with $70,000 from the house, 20 from savings. 90 grand total to start fresh. Found a great apartment downtown within a week of the house closing. One of those newer buildings with floor-to-ceiling windows and actual amenities. Signed a year lease, moved in the same day. Set it up exactly how I wanted without anyone complaining about my furniture choices or color schemes. Work-wise, I got promoted 2 months after the separation. My boss Dave called me into his office, said my performance had improved significantly, gave me a 15% raise and a better title, asked if everything was okay at home. I told him I'd handled some personal issues and was in a better place now. He nodded, didn't push for details. The promotion meant better hours and more flexibility. Started hitting the gym at 6 a.m. before work. Got in the best shape I'd been in since college. Down 15 pounds, actually have visible abs now. Feels good. Started dating casually about 3 months post-separation. Nothing serious yet, but went on some decent dates. Met a woman named Claire at a friend's barbecue last month. She's a physical therapist, has her life together, doesn't create unnecessary drama. We've been seeing each other twice a week. She thinks it's funny that I'm the most organized person she's ever met. I'll take it. As for Rachel, the consequences kept rolling in without me having to do anything. Turns out Brett, the delivery guy, wasn't just seeing Rachel. His girlfriend found out because someone in our neighborhood saw his van parked at our house during work hours and reported it to his company. Company investigated, found out he was sleeping with a customer on the clock, fired him immediately. His girlfriend dumped him the same day she found out. Brett tried to get another delivery job, but word spreads in those industries. Nobody wanted to hire the guy who got fired for sleeping with customers. Last I heard from Jake, who ran into him at a gas station. Brett's working retail at some electronics store making minimum wage. Went from decent delivery driver pay with benefits to barely scraping by. Rachel's two friends who encouraged the affair, Brittany and Amanda, both had their own marriages blow up. Brittany's husband found out she'd been cheering Rachel on and lost his mind. Kicked her out, filed for divorce within 2 weeks. Amanda's husband found the messages where she was living vicariously through Rachel's affair. They're in counseling, but he moved into the guest room, and word is they're probably done. Rachel's family cut her off almost immediately. Her mom called me the week after I filed, apologized for her daughter's behavior, said she was ashamed. Her dad sent me a text saying he respected how I handled everything, and that I was always welcome at their house regardless of what Rachel did. Her sister blocked her on all social media and didn't speak to her for 4 months. The neighborhood gossip destroyed Rachel's social life. Small community. Everyone knows everyone. She became that woman who cheated with the delivery guy. Couldn't go to the grocery store without people talking. Her friends stopped inviting her to things. She got excluded from the neighborhood Facebook groups. Completely iced out. Her work situation got ugly too. The dental practice she worked at was family-owned, very conservative values. When the dentist who owned the place found out about the affair, he didn't fire her, but made it clear she wasn't getting any raises or promotions. Ever. The other hygienist stopped being friendly. She ate lunch alone in her car every day. She quit after 2 months of that treatment, found a job at a different practice across town, but took a pay cut because she couldn't explain why she left her previous job without looking bad. Then, the money problems hit her. Rachel had gotten used to splitting bills with me, having shared expenses, living in a house that was affordable on 2 incomes. Suddenly, she was paying full rent on an apartment by herself, covering all her own bills, and dealing with the credit card debt she'd racked up during the affair buying new clothes. She had to sell her car and get something cheaper. Moved from a nice 2-bedroom apartment to a studio in a worse part of town. Started picking up weekend shifts at her dental practice just to make ends meet. About 6 weeks ago, she tried to reach out one more time. Sent me a long email about how she'd been doing a lot of thinking, how she realized what she'd lost, how therapy had helped her understand she'd been looking for external validation instead of working on herself, how she understood now that I was a good husband, and she threw it all away. Ended the email asking if maybe we could get coffee and talk. Said she wasn't asking to get back together, just wanted closure and to apologize properly. I read it once, deleted it, and didn't respond. 2 weeks after that, Jake told me Rachel had apparently started dating again. Some guy she met on a dating app. Jake's girlfriend saw them at a restaurant and said Rachel looked miserable the entire time. The guy was on his phone half the dinner. Then last week I ran into Rachel at Target. I was grabbing some stuff from my apartment, turned down an aisle, and there she was. She saw me immediately, froze like a deer in headlights. I nodded at her. Rachel. Hey. She looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, wearing sweatpants and an old college shirt. The woman who used to spend an hour getting ready to go anywhere. Awkward silence for about 5 seconds. You look good, she said finally. Really good. Thanks. Been staying active. I heard you got promoted. Congratulations. Appreciate it. How's the new job? It's fine. Different environment, but fine. Another silence. She was holding a basket with instant ramen and frozen meals. The kind of stuff you buy when you're broke and don't have energy to care. Look, I don't know if you got my email. I did. And? And nothing. We're divorced. We're done. There's nothing to talk about. Her eyes got watery. I just wanted to apologize. To explain, you explained everything already. Ovulation, remember? Very scientific. She flinched. That was stupid. I was looking for any excuse that wasn't just admitting I screwed up. Yeah, you did screw up, and now you're dealing with the consequences. That's how it works. I know, I miss what we had. You miss the stability, the shared expenses, someone handling half the bills. That's not the same as missing me. She didn't deny it. I need to finish shopping, I said. Take care of yourself. I walked past her down the aisle. Didn't look back. Heard her start crying softly behind me, but kept walking. That was the last time I saw her. Haven't heard from her since. These days I'm doing great. Better apartment, better job, better shape, better life. Started taking weekend trips with friends. Picked up some hobbies I'd let slide during the marriage. Joined a recreational basketball league. Got a new truck last month. Something I'd wanted for years, but Rachel always said was unnecessary. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true. My wife snapped, I'm tired of your boundaries. Be a man. I said, understood. Then I stopped involving her in anything, including the job offer I'd already accepted out of state. When I finally served her divorce papers, she tried to lock me in with a pregnancy. Sup, Reddit. My wife told me to be a man because I wanted to set boundaries. So I went quiet, started planning my exit, and filed for divorce. What she did next backfired so hard it exposed her to everyone. Grab your popcorn and enjoy the shit show. Name's Brian, 34 male. My phone buzzes on the kitchen counter. Catherine's name flashing across the screen. This is call number 9 today. I watch it ring and let it go to voicemail. She's been calling nonstop again lately, like she thinks time rewinds if she tries hard enough. It took 11 months to get here. But I'm getting ahead of myself. 3 years of marriage. 3 years of being told my opinions were suggestions and her decisions were law. And it all started unraveling one night. But before I get to that night, you need to understand how I ended up married to this woman. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, the kind of place where everybody knows your business and your parents' business, and probably your grandparents' business too. My dad worked at a steel plant for 32 years before his back gave out. My mom worked at a grocery store until it closed. We weren't poor, but we weren't comfortable either. I put myself through college working help desk jobs and night shifts at a data center. Spent 4 years answering calls from people who couldn't figure out why their printer wasn't working. The answer was usually that it wasn't plugged in. I learned patience in that job. Got my certifications one at a time while living on ramen and store-brand energy drinks. By 28, I was a senior network engineer at a mid-sized financial services company. Good salary, decent benefits, and the kind of job security that comes from being the only guy who actually understands how the servers talk to each other. I met Catherine at a company mixer when I was 29. She worked in client relations. Beautiful, confident, and she laughed at my dry jokes. That should have been my first warning sign. Nobody laughs at my jokes. She pursued me. Not ego, just facts. She got my number from a coworker, texted me first, suggested our first date, and planned the first 3 months of our relationship like she was managing a project. I thought it was refreshing. I thought she was decisive. I thought I'd found someone who knew what she wanted. What she wanted, it turned out, was control. She just hid it well until the ring was on her finger. We got married after 14 months of dating. Small ceremony, mostly her family, because mine couldn't afford to fly out, and she said a big wedding would be tacky anyway. The first year was fine. Normal marriage stuff. Small disagreements about dishes and thermostats and whose turn it was to deal with the neighbor's barking dog. Nothing worth fighting about. The second year, things started shifting. She got promoted to senior account manager, and suddenly her schedule was more important than mine. Her work events were mandatory. Mine were optional. Her opinions on furniture and vacations and weekend plans became the default, and my opinions became obstacles to work around. I pushed back sometimes. She'd sigh, give me that look like I was being difficult, and say something about how she just wanted to make things easier for me. She said I should be grateful she was willing to take charge. She said most wives wouldn't put in this much effort. I let things slide. I told myself marriage was about compromise. I told myself she was just stressed from work. I told myself a lot of things that kept me comfortable, but kept me blind. By year 3, I'd become a passenger in my own life. She made decisions and informed me afterward. She spent money and explained why it was necessary after the fact. She planned our social calendar without asking me, then acted confused when I wasn't pumped about attending her coworker's cousin's baby shower for the third time that year. 11 months ago, I hit my limit. I'd just come home from a 12-hour shift. One of our main servers had crashed, taking half the trading floor offline, and I'd spent the day rebuilding configurations while finance executives breathed down my neck like I'd personally caused the outage. I was exhausted, mentally fried. I wanted to sit down, eat something, and stare at a wall for an hour. Instead, I walked into an ambush. Catherine was at the kitchen table with her laptop open, surrounded by contractor quotes and cabinet samples. She barely looked up when I came in. "I signed off on the kitchen renovation," she said, still scrolling through tile options. "They're starting demo next Monday." I stopped in the doorway. "What? We agreed to wait until next year." "Waiting's pointless." The contractor had an opening and I locked it in. She finally looked at me. "The kitchen's outdated. Everyone who visits says so." "How much?" "22,000. I put 8 down as a deposit from the joint account. Non-refundable. $8,000. From our joint savings. On a renovation we'd specifically agreed to postpone. You put 8 grand down without asking me? I'm telling you now, aren't I? It mattered, because we'd agreed to wait. Because I'd been planning to use some of that money to pay down the car loan early. Because once again, my input had been treated like a suggestion she could ignore. I told her I wished she'd talked to me first. I said it felt like she'd been making a lot of decisions without me lately. The new furniture she ordered without showing me options. The car she leased without mentioning it until it was in the driveway. The dinner parties she scheduled on nights I'd told her I was working late. That's when she snapped. She closed her laptop hard enough to make the table shake. Her whole tone changed. "I'm so tired of your boundaries and concerns," she said. "Honestly, it's exhausting. Be a man for once." The words hit and everything went quiet. I looked at her for a long moment. She was waiting for me to apologize, to fold like I always did. "Understood," I said. She smiled. Actually smiled. Like she'd won. Like she'd finally broken me into the shape she wanted. She turned back to her laptop and started scrolling through tile samples. What she didn't know was that I'd made a decision. I was going to stop involving her in anything, including the job offer that had been sitting in my inbox for 4 days. A hospital system in Colorado needed a new IT infrastructure manager. Complete network overhaul. Build a team from scratch. Relocation required. 30% raise. The kind of opportunity that shows up maybe twice in a career. I'd been on the fence because moving meant uprooting everything. Selling the house. Asking Catherine to leave her job. Starting over. But after that night, the fence disappeared. I pulled out my phone under the table while she scrolled through backsplash options. I opened the email. Read the offer one more time. I typed it out. "I accept the offer." Sent it at 11:50 p.m. And I didn't say a word to her. To understand why I could walk away from a 3-year marriage without looking back, you need to understand what that marriage actually looked like from the inside. Catherine came from money. Comfortable money. The kind where your parents pay for your college and your first car and probably help with your house down payment. She grew up expecting things to go her way, because things always had. As I said, I came from nothing. Every dollar I had, I earned. Every opportunity I got, I clawed for. We were totally different people pretending we were compatible, because the chemistry was good and the timing was right. The problems started small. She'd make plans without asking, then act hurt when I wasn't excited. She'd spend money we hadn't budgeted, then explain why it was actually an investment. One time, she volunteered me to help her father move a shed, full weekend project. She told me about it 2 days before, like I had nothing else going on. I had an on-call rotation that weekend. Critical systems. She said I could figure it out. I spent Saturday hauling lumber while checking my phone every 10 minutes for server alerts. Her dad complained I was distracted. Her mother, Monica, made everything worse. That woman treated me like hired help from day one. She'd visit our house, rearrange our furniture without asking, and tell Catherine the place needed a woman's touch. She'd make comments about my job, ask if I was planning to do something more prestigious, wonder out loud why her daughter had settled for an IT guy when she could have had a lawyer or a doctor. I brought it up to Catherine once. I said her mother was disrespectful and I'd appreciate some backup. Catherine laughed. She said her mother was just old-fashioned. She said I was being sensitive. She said I needed to learn to take a joke. I let it go. I let everything go. That was the pattern. Then there was her coworker, Bennett. Good-looking guy, always at every company event, always finding reasons to talk to Catherine. I noticed the way he looked at her. I noticed the way she laughed at his jokes a little too hard. I noticed the late nights at the office that started happening more often around month 18 of our marriage. I asked her about it once, casually. Just asked if Bennett was being appropriate. She rolled her eyes. She said I was being paranoid. She said Bennett was just friendly. She said she couldn't believe I'd accuse her of something like that. I didn't accuse her of anything. I asked a question. The real wake-up call came 6 months before the be a man thing. My best friend from college, Dominic, came to visit for a weekend. He was the kind of guy who'd help you move a couch at 2 a.m. and never mention it again. Solid, reliable. Catherine hated him right away. She complained that he was too loud. She complained that he ate too much of our food. She complained that we spent too much time playing video games instead of doing something productive. On the second night of his visit, she pulled me aside and said she didn't want him staying at our house anymore. She said he was a bad influence. She said I needed to grow out of friendships like that. Dom heard the whole thing through the wall. He left the next morning, told me he understood, and said to call him when I figured things out. I didn't call him. I was too embarrassed, too deep in the fog to see what was happening. But that conversation planted a seed, and over the next 6 months that seed started growing. I started paying attention. I started noticing how every decision somehow ended up being her decision. I started noticing how my needs were always negotiable, and hers were always non-negotiable. I started noticing how isolated I'd become, how I'd stopped seeing friends, stopped doing hobbies, stopped being anyone except Catherine's husband. By the time she told me to be a man, I was already halfway out the door. That night, something clicked. The job offer from Colorado wasn't just an opportunity. It was an escape route, and I was going to take it. The morning after I accepted the Colorado job, I woke up at 5 a.m. Catherine was still asleep, probably dreaming about her new kitchen. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and started building my exit strategy. The offer letter was in my inbox, countersigned by their HR director. Start date in 5 weeks. Relocation package included. I downloaded everything, saved it to an encrypted folder on my personal cloud, and started making lists. Financial separation, living arrangements, legal consultation, divorce filing, evidence gathering, timeline. I had 5 weeks to dismantle a 3-year marriage without Catherine noticing. It seemed impossible, but I'd spent years making impossible systems work. This was just another project with a hard deadline. Catherine came downstairs at 8, already on her phone. She asked if I could pick up her dry cleaning on my way home. Sure, I said. She paused. You're being agreeable. I like it. I said nothing. I had nothing left to say to her. That week, I opened a new checking account at a bank she didn't know existed. I rerouted my direct deposit. I started documenting everything, every financial transaction, every asset, every debt. I pulled 3 years of bank statements and credit card records. I made copies of the mortgage documents, the car titles, the insurance policies. I also called my cousin Reese. He was a family law attorney in Cincinnati. We weren't close, but blood is blood, and I needed someone who knew the system. I gave him the short version. Controlling wife, 3 years of marriage, no kids. I wanted out clean. Reese was quiet for a moment. You sure about this? Divorce isn't something you can undo. I told him I was sure. I told him about the be a man comment. I told him about 3 years of being steamrolled. I told him I'd already accepted a job in another state. He whistled low. Damn, you're not messing around. I said I was done messing around. Reese walked me through the basics. Our state allowed no-fault divorce. With no kids and relatively straightforward assets, it could be quick if both parties cooperated. He said the house would probably need to be sold and split. He said to document everything and keep my mouth shut until the papers were ready. I followed his advice. For 3 weeks, I was the perfect husband. Agreeable, pleasant, invisible. I said yes to everything. I smiled at her jokes. I complimented her outfits. I played the part so well that she started getting suspicious in the opposite direction, asking me why I was being so nice. I told her I'd been thinking about what she said. She bought it completely. She even told her mother I was finally coming around. I found an apartment in Colorado online. 1 bedroom, close to the hospital campus, available immediately. The building was nothing special, but it had secure parking, on-site laundry, and most importantly, it was 900 miles from Catherine. I filled out the application during lunch breaks, used my new bank account for the deposit, and had the lease signed within a week. The landlord didn't ask questions. He just wanted the first month's rent and proof of employment. I gave him both. The hardest part was the house. We'd bought it together, both names on the mortgage. I couldn't sell it without her signature, and I wasn't trying to steal anything. I just wanted out clean. Reese handled that part. He drafted divorce papers that proposed selling the house and splitting the equity 50-50. Fair, straightforward. I printed the papers and kept them in my laptop bag, waiting for the right moment. Then, during week 4 of my exit plan, Catherine dropped a bomb. It was a Tuesday night. I was in the home office, pretending to work while actually finalizing moving logistics. Catherine knocked on the door, which was unusual. She normally just walked in like she owned the place. She sat down across from me, hands folded in her lap. She looked nervous. Also unusual. "I have something to tell you," she said. My stomach dropped. For a split second, I thought she'd found out about the job, about the apartment, about the divorce papers sitting in my bag 3 feet away. "I'm pregnant," she said. I didn't move, just sat there while the words settled. "I found out last week," she continued. "I wanted to wait until I was sure before telling you. I know things have been tense lately, but this changes everything, right? We're going to be a family." She was smiling, crying a little. The perfect picture of a happy, expectant mother. And I didn't believe a single word. Maybe it was the timing. Maybe it was the fact that we'd barely been intimate in months. Maybe it was 3 years of learning that Catherine's announcements usually came with strings attached. But something about this felt wrong. "How far along?" I asked. "About 6 weeks," she said. I did the math in my head. 6 weeks ago was right around when she started coming home late from work regularly. Right around when the texts from Bennett became more frequent. Right around when she started picking fights with me over nothing. Almost like she was looking for reasons to be mad. "We should celebrate," she said. "This is amazing news." I forced a smile. Yeah, amazing. That night, I lay awake until 3 a.m. running scenarios. Either she was telling the truth and I was about to abandon my pregnant wife, or she was lying about the pregnancy to trap me, or she was pregnant, but it wasn't mine. Bennett, the late nights, the way she got defensive whenever I asked questions. I needed information, and I needed to be smart about getting it. The next morning, I called Reese, told him about the pregnancy. Long pause. "Well, that complicates things." I told him I wasn't sure I believed her. I told him about the timing, about Bennett, about my gut feeling that something was off. Reese sighed. "Look, if there's a baby and it's yours, walking out makes you look terrible in court. If there's no baby, or it's not yours, she's using it as leverage. Either way, you need proof before you do anything." He was right. I couldn't file for divorce with a pregnancy announcement hanging over everything. The optics would be devastating, but I also couldn't just take her word for it. "Get her to show you confirmation," Reese said. "Doctor's appointment, ultrasound, something official. And if she's really pregnant and you have doubts about paternity, we can deal with that after birth with a DNA test." I thanked him and hung up. That evening, I asked Catherine if she'd seen a doctor yet. "I have an appointment next week," she said. "You could come if you want." "I want," I said. She looked surprised, almost disappointed. The appointment was the following Thursday. I took the afternoon off work, drove her to the OB/GYN, and sat in the waiting room wondering if my entire life was about to implode. The ultrasound confirmed it. She was pregnant, about 7 weeks along. Catherine was crying happy tears. The doctor was congratulating us. I shook hands and smiled and said all the right things. But in my head, I was already recalculating. The pregnancy changed everything and nothing. It changed the timeline. I couldn't file for divorce right away, not without looking like a monster who abandoned his pregnant wife. It changed nothing about my decision to leave. If anything, it made me more certain. Because if Catherine was capable of timing a pregnancy announcement to trap me, she was capable of anything. I called Reese and explained the situation. "Paternity test after birth," he said. "That's the cleanest way. If it's yours, you'll have custody and support obligations. If it's not, you'll have grounds for divorce that make you the sympathetic party. What about in the meantime? In the meantime, you wait. Keep documenting. Keep your finances separate where you can. And don't tell her anything about your plans." I didn't like waiting, but I understood the strategy. What Catherine didn't know was that I'd already taken the Colorado job. I called my new employer and explained I had a family situation. They weren't happy. They gave me 90 days max. After that, they'd have to repost. I told them I understood. The 90 days came and went. They reposted. I reapplied. They said I was still their first choice when timing worked. The apartment lease I'd signed went month to month after the initial term. Everyone was on standby, waiting for me to give the green light. I spent the next 7 months being the model expectant father. I went to every appointment. I assembled nursery furniture without complaint. I painted the baby's room a soft yellow because Catherine said green was too trendy. I pretended to read baby name books while actually researching paternity testing laws on my phone. Catherine was thriving. She loved the attention. She loved posting ultrasound pictures online. She loved telling everyone how excited we were to start a family. Meanwhile, I was building my case. I checked our phone records. Catherine had been texting Bennett dozens of times per week for the past 4 months. Late-night calls lasting 20, 30, 40 minutes. I couldn't see the content, but the pattern was obvious. I checked her calendar she synced to our shared cloud. Plenty of late work nights that didn't match any company events I could verify through her firm's public schedule. She had client dinners on Tuesday nights when her firm didn't have any client events scheduled. She had team meetings that ran until 9 p.m. when her team usually left at 5. The inconsistencies were everywhere once I started looking. I checked our credit card statements. Dinners at restaurants she never mentioned. A boutique hotel charge. In the city she never explained. Uber rides to neighborhoods where she had no reason to go. I screenshotted everything. Saved it to my encrypted folder. Built a timeline that painted a real clear picture. Dom was back in my life by this point. I'd finally called him 6 months after she kicked him out of our house and told him everything. He didn't say I told you so. He just asked what he could do to help. He drove 6 hours on a Saturday to help me move boxes to a storage unit I'd rented. We did it while Catherine was at a baby shower, loading my car with books and clothes and the few things I actually cared about. "What if the kid is yours?" he asked. I closed the unit door and clicked the padlock shut. "Then I'll figure out custody and pay support. But I'm still leaving. That part's not changing." He nodded. Didn't push. The baby was born in early March. A girl. 7 pounds, 4 ounces. Catherine named her Audrey. I held her in the hospital room and felt nothing. I couldn't bond with a child who might not be mine. Not until I knew the truth. 3 days after we brought Audrey home, I asked Catherine about a paternity test. We were in the living room. She was on the couch, exhausted from a late-night feeding, scrolling through her phone while the baby slept. I was standing by the window waiting for the right moment. "I want a paternity test," I said. No preamble. Her reaction told me everything I needed to know. The phone dropped. Her head snapped up. She went from 0 to nuclear in about 2 seconds. How dare I? After everything she went through. After 9 months of carrying our child. After 18 hours of labor. And this was how I repaid her. I stayed calm. I'd rehearsed this moment 100 times. I said I wasn't accusing her of anything. I said I just wanted confirmation for peace of mind. "If you trusted me, you wouldn't need confirmation," she said. She was getting louder. "If you had nothing to hide, you wouldn't be scared of a test," I replied. She got quiet for a second. Then she stormed out of the room. We didn't speak for 2 days. On day 3, I told her I was filing for divorce and requesting a court-ordered paternity test as part of the proceedings. The look on her face was worth every single moment I'd spent wondering if I was crazy or if she was just that good at lying. Well, she was just that good at lying, but not good enough. Catherine tried everything to stop the divorce. She cried, she begged, she threatened. She called her mother, who called me with a 20-minute lecture about family values and commitment and how I was throwing away my responsibilities as a man. She called my mother. That backfired big time. My mom, who'd met Catherine exactly 3 times and liked her exactly 0 of those times, told her politely that she should have thought about commitment before treating her son like furniture. Then she hung up and called me to say she was proud of me for finally growing a spine. When the emotional stuff failed, Catherine switched to strategic warfare. She told everyone I'd abandoned my newborn daughter. She posted on social media about being a single mother because her husband couldn't handle responsibility. She painted me as the villain in every conversation. The story spread fast. Mutual friends started texting me, asking what was going on. Her family sent me messages calling me every name they could think of without technically cursing. Even some of my coworkers heard rumors. I said nothing. I let her build her narrative. Because I knew the truth was coming, and the truth was going to hit like a freight train. The court ordered the paternity test. Catherine fought it hard. She claimed it was invasive, an attack on her character. The judge didn't care. Cheek swab, paperwork, results in 10 business days. Those 10 days were the longest of my life. Catherine went from confident to nervous to borderline frantic. The first few days, she was still playing offense. But as the days ticked by, desperation started creeping in. She started calling me constantly, not to fight, but to negotiate. Day 4, she offered to drop the divorce if I dropped the paternity demand. Day 6, she offered me the house, free and clear. Day 8, she offered to give me full custody if I just stopped the test. Full custody of a child she claimed was mine but didn't want me to verify. The offers made no sense unless she had something massive to hide. I didn't respond to any of it. I'd waited for months. I could wait 10 more days. Dom came down for the weekend while we waited. He said he wanted to be there when the call came, one way or another. We sat on the balcony of the temporary place I'd rented near work, eating takeout and watching the sun set over the parking lot. The results came on a Thursday afternoon. Reese called me at work. "You're not the father," he said. I sat in my office chair, phone pressed to my ear, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. Just pure, overwhelming relief. Like a weight I didn't even know I was carrying just disappeared. "We have grounds for divorce on infidelity," Reese continued. "With the DNA evidence, her credibility is shot. She lied about the pregnancy being yours. She tried to trap you with another man's child. No judge is going to look at her favorably after this." I asked what the next steps were. "We file updated papers. We push for a quick resolution. Given the circumstances, I'd say we can have this wrapped up in 60 days, maybe less." I thanked him and hung up. Then I made the call I'd been waiting almost a year to make. The Colorado job. They'd reposted it twice since I first accepted, but they kept me in the loop. When I told them I was clear to relocate, they fast-tracked the offer. Start date in 3 weeks. I called a moving company that afternoon. Saturday worked. Catherine had plans to visit her mother that weekend. Some family thing she'd mentioned a few days earlier. Saturday morning, I watched her pull out of the driveway. I waited until her car disappeared. Then I opened the door for the movers. 4 hours later, the house was half empty, and I was already 200 miles west on the interstate. Catherine came home to bare walls, missing furniture, and an envelope on the kitchen counter. Inside was a note. "You'll be served Monday. Reese is the only call you need." She called me 47 times that night. I didn't answer. Then I called Dom. "Not mine," I said. He was quiet for a second. Then he laughed. "Dude, go celebrate. You just dodged a bullet the size of a school bus." I didn't celebrate. I went back to work, finished my shift, drove to my apartment, and sat in the dark for an hour, just letting it sink in. Catherine had tried to trap me with another man's baby. She'd lied to my face for months. She'd built an entire story painting me as a deadbeat dad when she absolutely knew, that child wasn't mine. And now everyone was about to find out. When the DNA results became part of the court record, Catherine's carefully built story started falling apart. Not all at once, just piece by piece as people started asking questions she couldn't answer. The narrative spread. The one where I was the villain who abandoned his pregnant wife started developing cracks that kept spreading. Her own mother called her, not to support her, to ask what the hell was going on. Monica left me a voicemail a few weeks later apologizing for how she'd treated me over the years, which was so unexpected I saved it just to prove it actually happened. She said she was ashamed of her daughter. She said she understood why I left. She said she'd been wrong about me from the beginning. Coming from a woman who once asked me at Thanksgiving dinner if I ever planned to get a real job, that was something. The mutual friends who texted me asking what I was doing quietly stopped reaching out to her. Nobody made big announcements. Nobody posted anything public. People just stopped backing her once the facts got around. The coworkers who heard rumors about me abandoning my family started keeping their distance once the real story spread through the office grapevine. Bennett, the actual father, wanted nothing to do with her. Turns out he had a fiancée of his own, who didn't appreciate finding out her future husband had been sleeping with a married woman and had gotten her pregnant. That engagement ended within a week of the DNA results going public. Bennett transferred to a different office in a different state. Catherine lost her job 2 months after the divorce was finalized. Not officially because of the affair, but the company found reasons. Performance issues, attitude problems, the kind of vague explanations employers use when they want someone gone. She couldn't afford the house on her own. We sold it as part of the divorce settlement. After the mortgage payoff, the equity split, and legal fees, she walked away with about $38,000. Not nothing, but not enough to rebuild the life she thought she deserved. She moved back in with her mother, a 32-year-old woman with a baby that wasn't her husband's, living in her childhood bedroom, trying to figure out how everything went so wrong. I moved to Colorado, started my new job, built a new life. The work was good, challenging in ways that reminded me why I got into this field. The hospital's network was a mess when I arrived. Legacy systems that hadn't been updated in years. Security protocols that would make a hacker laugh. I loved it. I finally had problems I could actually solve. I built a team from scratch, put in security protocols that actually made sense, migrated their patient record system without losing a single byte. The CFO said I'd saved them from a disaster they didn't even know was coming. I bought a house 8 months in. Small place, good neighborhood, mountain views from the back deck. I started hiking on weekends. Picked up woodworking because I finally had a garage, and no one to tell me it was too loud. Built a bookshelf, then a coffee table. Got back in touch with old friends I'd let slip away. Started feeling like myself again for the first time in years. Dom visited a few times that first year. We'd end up on the deck until midnight, talking about nothing important. Reese sent me the final divorce papers 10 weeks after the DNA results. Signed, sealed, done. I was officially a free man. Life moved forward. The Colorado sky was bigger than anything I'd known in Ohio. The air was cleaner. The people minded their own business. I could go entire weekends without talking to anyone, and it felt like freedom. Then, 14 months after I left, Catherine showed up. I don't know how she found my address. Maybe property records? Maybe she got creative. Didn't matter. She was standing on my porch when I got home from work on a random evening. She looked different, thinner, tired. The polished confidence was gone, replaced by something desperate and worn out. "Can we talk?" she asked. I stood at the bottom of my porch steps, keys in hand, and looked at her. This woman who'd controlled and dismissed and manipulated me for 3 years. This woman who'd tried to pass off another man's child as mine. "There's nothing to talk about," I said. "Please, just 5 minutes. I need you to understand." I walked past her, unlocked my door, and stood in the doorway. "Understand what?" She turned to face me. Her eyes were wet. "I made mistakes. I know that now. I was controlling and I didn't appreciate you and I took you for granted. But I've changed. I've been working on myself." "Good for you," I said. "I mean it. I get it now. Why you left. I get why you were unhappy. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything." I leaned against the doorframe. "You done?" She blinked. "What? Are you done? I've got a steak marinating and a game starting in an hour. I flew 900 miles to talk to you and you're thinking about steak? It's a ribeye. Good cut. Didn't want to waste it." I shrugged. "You were saying something about being sorry?" Her face flushed. "I'm trying to make things right. Catherine, you tried to trap me with another man's baby. You lied to my face for 9 months. You told everyone I abandoned my child when you knew from the start, that she wasn't mine. And now you want to make things right? What exactly does that look like in your head?" She flinched. "I was scared. I didn't know what else to do. I thought if you believed the baby was yours, you'd stay. I thought we could work through it. Work through you sleeping with Bennett? It was a mistake. One mistake. That's a lot of commitment for a mistake." She stepped closer. "I know I don't deserve another chance. I know I ruined everything, but I'm asking anyway. Can we try again? Start over? I'll move here. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll be different this time." I looked at her for a long moment. "No," I said. "Please, just Catherine." "The answer is no." I paused. "I don't hate you. Honestly, I don't think about you at all. You're just someone I used to know." She stared at me like I'd slapped her. "You should go," I said. "There's probably a flight back to Ohio tonight if you hurry. Maybe check the app while you're driving. I hear rental car return lines can be brutal." I stepped back inside my house, with my furniture and my view and my life that I'd built without her. "You wanted a man who made decisions," I said. "Congrats. I made one." I closed the door. Through the window, I watched her stand on my porch for almost a full minute, processing, realizing there was no angle left to play, no manipulation that would work, no tears that would change anything. Eventually, she walked back to her rental car. She sat behind the wheel for a few minutes, probably crying, probably already coming up with a new story about how I was cold and heartless, and refused to forgive her. She'd find a way to make herself the victim again because that's what she always did. I didn't care. I went inside, seasoned my ribeye, and fired up the grill. Somewhere in Ohio, Catherine was probably landing, going back to her childhood bedroom, trying to figure out where it all went wrong. I already knew, and I was done explaining it. I ate in peace. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.